right, so once again, thank you everyone for being here now that everyone is here. This is the representation panel, which has always been a very important sentiment and tentpole of the California Mermaid Convention's programming, because we always want to go a step beyond just diversity. To us, diversity just means literally the physical act of people being diverse. With representation, it's important for us to amplify voices, to give a platform to people who normally aren't heard, and it's really about giving the opportunities and the time for people to understand who these people are and, you know, some of their challenges they may face. So, are we pretty good with everyone being added mostly, Miss Rachel? Okay. I think Ron is waiting, who is our beloved Pearl. Okay. So let's get started. We have 5 amazing panelists. My name's Merman Jax. I'm here just to moderate. I was part of the panel last year, but we want to make sure every year we are giving new voices the opportunity to speak. So what I'm going to do with our amazing panelists is have everyone introduce themselves, tell your name, maybe where you're from, and maybe a little bit about your involvement in the Mer community, maybe some events you love to work, which you could be known for, things like that. So how about we start with the lovely Divine Cyrene? Yes.
Hi, I'm Divine. I'm located in Baltimore, Maryland. I am a part-time mermaid and I'm a mermaid circus performer located here in Great Mount Vernon of Baltimore. I run Psychedelic Circus and I've been in the mermaid community since 2015. So I've been around a lot of lovely people in this community, and that's about everything about me.
Wonderful. We are very happy you are here. Thank you. Merman Garnet, how about you go next? Give us a moment to unmute you.
Hi everyone, my name is Merman Garnet. I'm from San Jose, California, the San Francisco Bay Area. I've pretty much been a merman by recreation for over, I think, 4 or 5 years, even though I've been following the mermaid world for almost 10 years now. I'm also a visual artist and crafter. I have my own silicone shop called Garnet Grotto, which Jax is wearing one of my armbands. My Delphinus armbands. I had the opportunity to be a vendor for the first annual California Mermaid Convention last year, and I'm also a vendor again this year. My shop is open. Go check out my sales, and I'm also very privileged and happy to be here speaking to you all right now.
Yay, thank you for coming, Garnet. We're very lucky to have you. I think we're going to move on to Miss Mermaid Elisa.
Hi, I'm Elisa. I live in Los Angeles, California, pretty close to Merman Jax actually, and I've been working for his company Dark Tide Productions for quite a while now. Favorite place to work for. Flattery will get me everywhere. And everywhere. I've been mermaiding since 2015, and actually Jack was one of the first people that I had met in the community, so I just always thought everyone was like him, really cool.
I paid her to say that. All right. Thank you, Mermaid Elisa. Let's move on to the wonderful Mermaid Sydney, please.
Hi guys, I'm Mermaid Sydney. I live in Denver, Colorado, and I've been mermaiding since 2009. I started looking into the community in 2008, and last year was my first time being at the California MerCon, so that was really fun, and I'm glad that I get to do it this year too.
Hi everybody, my name is Andrea. I live in Sacramento, California with the lovely Miss Rachel. I've been in the mermaid community since 2015, but I have been lucky enough to be a professional mermaid at Dive Bar since 2016. And I really got into this community because I wanted to do volunteer work and work with children. And I'm lucky enough to get to do a lot of events through Dive Bar and other organizations, and then swim as a mermaid at night in a 40-foot saltwater tank. So that's me.
Thank you very much, Mermaid Andrea. So, you know, there's so many important, huge topics we want to cover here, and there's these great points of view, and I think this is a great, safe space space to do so. I mean, even some of you commented on my nice little dangly earring. This is literally even a form of protest because I was once told by a person I worked for, don't wear earrings, they're too gay. And I was told that. And it stayed with me for years. And I didn't realize how much it bothered me. So I'm not worrying about that today. So first question for everyone, and we'd love you all to chime in on this. Let's see. Do you feel that communities who are marginalized are drawn to the mermaid community, and why do you think that is? Divine Serene, what are your thoughts on that?
That was one that I actually thought about for a very long time. How I feel about that is I feel like when I came into the community, I wanted to come in somewhere where I felt safe and I felt accepted. So I feel like people that are different in all kinds of backgrounds came to this community to feel like we had one big family. So for me, when I came into the community in 2013 and looking into it, and I saw Mermaid Sydney and I met Mermaid Jax and also Caribbean Pearl giving me a lovely conversation. You don't see enough representation for young ladies like myself, also with being a modified young lady like myself. So I have more to it, but I don't know what else I can say to that right now. I have to think some more on that one.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah, take a minute. Mermaid Garnet, did you want to add something to this topic?
Well, absolutely. I definitely think for any marginalized community, any community that's going through some form of oppression or hardship other people might not, one common thing they all have is like they like seeking solace and an escape through something fantasy or something that just catches their eye or exciting, which I definitely think the mermaid world definitely does provide that for all of us as a common ground. And even though most of us grew up idolizing or loving the same mermaids in popular culture, you still see all of that bringing people from all walks of life together, no matter what. Even, just when they see a mermaid on screen, big screen, or even someone in a tail, it really gravitates everyone towards that. It brings everyone some common ground to feel good and just really enjoy. And just seeing more so recently how the mermaid community has grew more and more, it definitely shows that there is more solace in that, even though there is still some need for extra representation. But I definitely think the mermaid world definitely allows for that. So, yeah.
I wanted to bounce off of what Merman Garnet had said, which was about this is like a fantasy world, and everyone had fantasies as a child, still do as adults. And I think that what a lot of us come here for is to live out our best self, essentially. Like, no one's going to judge you for wearing an earring or coming on a Zoom call with a crown. I know that I wouldn't be able to do this with other people that I know. They give me strange looks. They're like, that's so weird when I tell them that I'm a mermaid. But when I'm in the community, it's so nice that everybody is so welcoming and understanding about what everybody likes or does. When I first started mermaiding, I remember that it was with people who were all the same skin color, all had the same hair, and you had to be skinny, and like your hair had to be long. It was such like a one stereotype. And it wasn't until like I really started diving deep into the community that I saw that it was so much more varied, and I absolutely love that way more than just being like, must be white, must be skinny, long red hair, that's it. So that's it for me.
So things are definitely changing. You can see just by, not just the panelists, but by the amazing attendees who are watching with us, that people want to have these conversations and learn and feel represented. Mermaid Sydney, what are your thoughts about how marginalized communities may be drawn to the world of mermaids, or the mermaid community specifically?
I definitely agree. I think that when Mermaid Garnet said how if you're feeling oppressed, maybe you want to be seen, you want to be acknowledged, and definitely having a tail, you're gonna get seen. When I started, there wasn't, to my knowledge, back then there weren't very many mermaids at all, of, all colors, but they were primarily white. I didn't get to really meet any living in Colorado, not ocean. But when I did, you just feel this sense of like, you feel a sense of community, you feel a sense of understanding, acceptance. I definitely think we all look for that. And then when you maybe never were, it's a great feeling. You don't want to leave. You want to meet more, and you want to express yourself to more people, so maybe they understand.
And also, Miss Mermaid Sydney is wearing our all-over print of the Circle of Friendship, which I love and I haven't seen yet. And I think it looks great.
I love it.
So thank you for supporting the charities by buying that top.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely have to agree with what Elisa was saying about coming into this community. And when I first started mermaiding, it was more of a, it was an obsession, but it was almost a pipe dream, you know, like, oh my gosh, I can be a mermaid, no way, that's so cool. And then I got more into the community and I realized just how different and varied and individual everybody was. And that's really kind of what sucked me in and kept me wanting to be a part of this community, because I hadn't seen anybody, you know, do this or do more of what we're doing other than the aerial types or the ones like that, you know. And growing up with my skin color, my hair color, people always, you know, they typecast you, and you do feel marginalized because they're like, oh, you're perfect for that, but only that. But in the mermaid community, you can be whoever you want. You can be whatever you want. If you want to be a deep sea mermaid, you can be a deep sea mermaid, you know? It's more about you get to express yourself and what you feel inside, and, you know, not so much people see you as only one thing, because you get to make your own things, you know? And so that really kind of affected me in a way where it was the first time that I had really come into a community in my life where I didn't have to worry about, you know, being, oh, that friend, or, oh, I'm, you know, the dark skinned one or the brown one, because everybody's so different. So there is no marginalization in this community, and it's just very welcoming.
Yeah. Thank you. That is a wonderful set of points by all of you. Thank you for your thoughts. Let me go into some individual questions I'll mix in here and there. Merman Garnet, question for you. What we're going to talk about here is, as some of us may know, you've always had a great love for the original Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen. Do you want to tell us why you connected to that story and why you felt connected to it?
Oh yes, the original Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid has been a favorite of mine since I read it as an adult. I grew up loving the colorful, happy Disney version, but as an adult and gaining more of a sense of maturity and actuality of what the world is actually like, I tend to gravitate more towards Hans Christian Andersen's original Little Mermaid more. For me, how it really connects as a person is, I'm sure most of us know, either through rumor or word of mouth, was that story was written as an anonymous gay love story about Hans Christian Andersen's unrequited love for another man, which for me as a gay man, especially in this time, and I definitely gravitate towards that because I've experienced that plenty of times throughout my love life up to now. Is I tend to fall very deeply for someone, and 80% of the time that person usually doesn't fall for me, so then I end up living with the hurt of that and just moving forward. Even though sometimes it repeats, I know that's just part of the process, and that's just a reality of life, despite what Disney shows you about the character getting married in the end. In reality, it's not like that. And in addition to that, I find the character of the original Little Mermaid to be a lot more relatable to me personally, because in that story, she was not like literally bubbly, adventurous, risk taker type person. She was more quiet, thoughtful, an introvert, and withdrawn, which, especially for me as a person growing up, the quiet kid, the how do you say? I don't want to say not literally black sheep, the loner type, especially in elementary school, I always would spend time by myself. I didn't really have a lot of close friends, which I was fine with. And so, yeah, I relate to that character a lot, especially other aspects of my life, like personal life, family life, home life, even in the mermaid community. Like, I love all my friends and all the people I know, but I just am a natural introvert. So I tend to gravitate towards solace. So yes, there's a lot of layers that Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid I can relate to plenty, but I definitely think those are some of the key points I can mention.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really amazing about original storybooks or fairy tales about the Little Mermaid is she looked different, a lot of them. There's one book I have, I can't find it. I never realized when I was younger I liked it so much, and it was because she had jet black hair. And a part of me realized she looks like me, and I hadn't seen that before. And I just found that book with my parents, and I took it home, and I was so excited. But that representation on the smallest level, it really does matter. And it makes you feel less alone and like, oh, I can do this. It's not just me, I'm not the only one. And I think that story resonates with so many people because of those aspects.
Yes.
So sharing those thoughts.
Many layers to that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Miss Mermaid Andrea, question for you. So, when you began creating your unique persona and even your tail design, maybe your accessory colors, your ancestry and heritage was a big part of that creation. Do you want to tell us what those inspirations were and why those things were important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the chance to make my own personal tail because I knew I would be doing more gig work and more parties, and I wanted it to be something, unlike everyone else had. And so I went with themes from my heritage, and I am mixed race, and so my dad is Native American and Hispanic, but we can trace our ancestry to the Aztecs, which has always been a huge part of my life, but it's never been something that I have addressed or really talked about because, growing up, and especially growing up in Rockland, where I went to school, it's a very white suburbia town. Nobody really wants to hear a kid talk about the Aztecs for 3 hours straight and their culture and everything. So I never really got to express that part of my life. And as an adult, when I had the opportunity to make my tail, I didn't want it to be something that necessarily would look like everyone else's. I know all tails are unique and they all represent a part of who we are, but I went a little bit further, and I actually had Mermaid Rachel design my tail with elements from, it has spots on it, so jaguar spots, which are a huge part of the South American and Aztec and even Mayan culture. The jaguars are huge, and it's a statement piece for me. So it's a way for me to start a conversation when I'm at parties and parents or somebody asks me, oh, your tail is so beautiful, what are those spots, or why did you decide to do that? And it's a way for me to bring up, the fact that this is my heritage, this is my race, and give them some facts about that. So it's like a way for me to kind of get the conversation started with not so much being in your face about it, like, hey, you want to learn about, the Aztec culture? And the kids just think it's so unique. And I worked into my backstory that my spirit animal is a jaguar, and I have a story about my character, being lost in the cenotes, and she's swimming and swimming and swimming in these dark cenotes, and she finally comes into this cave, and she looks up, and there's a jaguar there. So I go on from there to explain that, and it's been pretty cool. I've had a really good reception, and people would just say, your tail is so unique, and that was such a good idea when I tell them the story. And I would never have been able to pull it off without the help from Mermaid Rachel designing it for me, because I had no idea how I wanted to do it.
And that's another amazing thing about the company of Mermaid and Mom is that I think they are so considerate and knowledgeable of culture, and they like to express types of accessories, they like to really personalize things. And I think it's so organic and so wonderful when you can bring a piece of who you are into your performance life and you kind of integrate those two things. So I think that's amazing. And, you know, thank you for telling that part of your story with us. Here's another big general question for everyone. You know, the mermaid community has changed so much, even in my experience, in the last, say, 8 years. The community has shifted, it's changed, there's all these wonderful new people in it. I'd like to know from each of you, who are maybe some people you were inspired by in the community? Who are some people possibly you looked up to and thought, oh, they look like me, or oh, they remind me of me? Because I know that can be really hard to find in this community. I still don't see anyone that looks like me. So I'd love to hear from each of you, get my phone, about, you know, who inspired you. Let's start with Divine.
When I first came in, it was Caribbean Pearl. I had a conversation with her in 2013 and she really inspired me. Also Mermaid Sydney on the panel. When I first became a mermaid, I was very not where I'm at in my divine state now. And seeing those two as Black women, it was inspiring to me because it felt that there were people like me. And it made me push the bubble to be like a little bit more different. So if I did inspire other young Black women that came in our community, they knew that you can be different. You can have tattoos, you can have piercings and still be very professional. And they really pushed me to the point where I got to this point now. So those two are my top. My top. And Jax, of course, because Jax has always been my number one. I love him he's been always my inspiration. So those are my top 3.
Thank you. I didn't even set that one up, I swear. So, thank you so much, Divine. Merman Garnet, who are some of your inspirations, people you've looked up to and felt a connection to?
All right, so I can name quite a few off the top of my head. 2 of them who I can say ahead of time are here in the chat. But as I said earlier, I've been following the mermaid world for almost 10 years. This was like back before it blew up to the community it was now. It was when I did a little research and came across some big tail making companies such as Merbella's and Mertailor, which I'll say the first person who was the major inspiration for me early on was Eric Ducharme. Just seeing the amount of quality of work he was doing, even from an artistic standpoint, the craftsmanship, the look, the color, even the function of the tails, and on top of that, he's like, we're close to the same age, like mid-late 20s back then, early 30s now. Just stepping back and looking at thinking, wow, someone my age is doing all of that, and he's in the mermaid community and he's a merman. So for me, that was a really big wow moment. So I definitely have to say Eric Ducharme is the first person. And back then, I was more following the mermaid community as more of a appreciator and just looking at it from the side. I never thought back then I would become a merman now or swimming a tail, and here I am today. I'm owner of a Spellbound Tail made by Eric himself, so where things lead up. And the second person, I don't mean to put them on the spot, they're right here, right now, I would say is Mermaid Rachel, the head mermaid of the Dive Bar Mermaids. I'm not sure, some of you might know how we came across each other. Back then, I was working for a nonprofit in San Francisco called Dr. Sketchies, where we have burlesque performers, costume models, come model for us artists while we draw for them. Back then, I knew I wanted to find a mermaid to model for us, and I didn't want just any mermaid. I wanted one who was really good at a lot of things she does, her image, creativity, and doing some research, I came across the Dive Bar. I messaged them, and Rachel got in touch with me. She agreed to jump on. Then we just went from there. And I remember the experience of that night when Rachel comes in with her helpers with all her gear. And back then when she had her first generation Mertailor tail, I believe her name was Little Anne. That was my first time seeing a silicone tail in person, and I tried lifting it myself, and I couldn't believe how heavy that thing was. Like, wow. And just when we were starting to draw her and seeing what she was doing, the creativity she was doing with all her poses, fluidity, using her props, and even the costume changes like she did in her 5-minute sessions, her 10-minute sessions where she had like Atlantean armor and a trident, and the 20-minute session where she came out in her big silicone tail. So I definitely thought Rachel was definitely a big inspiration for me artistically in the mermaid world. So I definitely have that to thank her for. And the final person who's here right now is also Merman Jax. So I remember when I was following him years ago, back he was still with Shiro's Entertainment, and back then I was just more an artist admiring mer people. I would draw and paint them, and I was just so inspired by Jax, just how he really brings the mer persona, and especially as a merman and an openly gay man of color. I definitely think he's a really big inspiration and trailblazer. I remember this was like, I think around the time after you did, I think it was it called LOJ back then, or was it called something else?
LOJ that a lot of the performers use, but yes, it's Labyrinth Masquerade Ball in Los Angeles.
Yes, the Masquerade Ball. I was especially inspired by your whole look and presence back then. I thought, okay, I definitely got to do a painting of them. So I did that watercolor painting of you, and I ended up messaging it to you, and you really loved it so much. We were messaging each other back and forth then, and later we ended up meeting in person at the Coastal Carnival at Dive Bar, and I can honestly say, when Rachel went upstairs to go get you, I was just sitting there, oh my god, I'm so nervous. And I see you coming down the bar looking around, and you see me, you said hi, and just got to see how much of a great person you were, so it was a real pleasure. So yeah, so I definitely have you to thank for that, Jax.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And even on a personal note, the watercolor he's talking about is up in my room. So I cherish it. I adore the thing. So thank you. Miss Mermaid Elisa, you are next. Who has inspired you? Feel free to not say me. So it looks like this isn't a commercial for me that I have set up. So.
Well, it's not you. Ew.
Perfect.
I'm just kidding. It's actually two different mermaids. One is actually Mermaid Rachel, because she was one of the first people that I saw perform underwater, and it was just like her control of her hair. I mean, you guys probably have seen, if you've been on my Instagram, you've seen plenty of bloopers of my hair just being like eating my face, and it's like her hair just like she controls it, and it was always so graceful, and she made herself like bigger than she was, and I just remember being so in awe of like her skills and her poise. And somebody else that really inspired me is Mermaid Serena, which you guys probably know her on Instagram as the Singapore Mermaid. I don't see a whole lot of Asian mermaids a lot, so when I first started in this community, I didn't know of any other Asian mermaids. Like I didn't have Instagram, so it's like I created my Instagram based on Merman Jax and Mermaid Rachel's suggestions. So I didn't have Instagram before that, which was 2 years ago. It was 2018. And so it's like I didn't know of any other Asian mermaids. So when I first found her, I was like, oh my god, somebody who looks like me. And that was just so exciting. And then like I actually got to meet her in person and talk to her, and she's exactly who she is online in person. So like that just made my heart really happy.
Serena is wonderful, and we had some plans with her that didn't come through this round, but she is a wonderful, lovely pro. So yes, we're all big fans of Serena. Miss Mermaid Sydney, besides obviously me as your primary inspiration for everything you do, who else have you been inspired by?
So I actually have 3 people. Way back when, there weren't very many mermaids at all. And so my first one that looked like me was Medusa. I met her at the first mermaid convention in Las Vegas in 2011. She was one of the performers, and I was just completely in awe of her. Thought she was amazing. And my second one, the two that don't look like me, sorry, Mermaid Rachel. You're being so inspiring. You really have to try harder. She just has this way of making you feel so comfortable, no matter who you are, what your background is, what your abilities are. She just does it. And the other one is Iara Mandan. And I met both of them in the Bahamas. I don't remember what our first year was. I want to say 2013, maybe 12. But it was the second year that they were doing it. We all, well, me, flew down to the Bahamas by myself, first time traveling alone, and met those two at the Mermaid Portfolio Workshop. And they were so helpful. Like I will not be the mermaid I am today without them. So I appreciate them. And it just goes to show that you can look up to anybody. It doesn't matter what color they are. If they inspire you, they inspire you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mermaid Sydney. And also, I can, second the Iara Mandan. She's the woman who trained me, 10 years ago. And lots of people don't know that I trained with her. And she's phenomenal. And I wouldn't be the merman I am without her advice. She's amazing. Mermaid Andrea, you are up. Who are some of your inspirations in the community?
Well, I'll just get this out of the way right here and now. Definitely Mermaid Rachel. And yes, she's an amazing mermaid, but for me, it's really the fact that she has never made me compromise who I am to fit a role or a look. She's always been the one who says, okay, this is you, this is what you look like, this is what you act like, we're gonna work around it and we're gonna make it work. She's never told me or asked me to be anyone or any way that I'm not. So I've really developed my, mermaid persona and even my personality in general around the fact that she, it was never a question of we have to get you up to par to be, in this tiny little box. She's like, okay, I see you in your box, so let me come to you. And that was huge for me, even just in anything, to have somebody come and look at you and see you as you are and want to meet you halfway. Or, with Rachel, it was like she was right there. She was like right in my face meeting me instead of making me come to her. The second mermaid, who is a huge part of my life, and I just take a lot of, what I am and how I am as a mermaid from her, is Mermaid Elisa. And she's one of my best friends, and, and I'm gonna get emotional. I promised myself I wouldn't do this. She's uncompromising as well, and I first met her when we were doing Coastal Carnival, and I was not even a mermaid at that time. I had just volunteered for Dive Bar to run the show. I was the stage manager, and I remember she just comes in and she's just her unapologetic self, and she's loud, and she's like, let's do this, and she's just everything that I wanted to be, and she just represents herself so well. And I've taken a lot from how she portrays herself in this community, and I think it's helped me a lot. And the third one, we've already talked about Iara, but Iara for me, more than just a mermaid, how she is a performer and the type of performer, and just how, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's amazing at all her underwater work. She's amazing at what she does. She's so inspiring. She's so, dedicated, but she's also so nice and so sweet. And it's not like, she's not in your face about like, oh, I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. And we all know that she's obviously the best. Like, she's phenomenal, but she's just so graceful, and she has so much humility about her craft and her art. And she's the one person, like, whenever I'm having a day where I'm down or I'm sad, I go and I watch all her videos of her underwater work, and it makes me feel so much better, and it's so inspiring. So those are my top three.
Miss Mermaid Sydney, here is a personal question for you. And you talk about this at your comfort level and go as far as you want to go. This has to do with kind of the idea of perceived ethnicity. And there was definitely a situation, even upon announcing this panel, where we were still trying to lock down Divine Cyrene as our 5th panelist with some scheduling stuff. And I posted a photo of the 4 first panelists. And these are just facts. Someone said, what, you're not going to have any Black representation on the panel? And I was very upset, and people even reached out because they're very upset too. So on that note, how do you want to talk about that experience in general, or just the idea of that experience? And I may not be able to unmute you, so there you go.
You're already gonna make me emotional.
So sorry.
Already. No, that did come up. It's very weird to be in that position. Sorry. So I'm 50% white, 50% Black. If you showed someone a picture of me on the street and said, what is her ethnicity? Probably all of them would say Black, which is fine, that's fine. However, if you classify me as Black, and then I'm on this representation panel, and you don't acknowledge that I am, it's like I'm not enough either way to be what you need me to be. I'm sorry. It's something that I thought about every day since it happened, and it happens a lot. You're just not enough of something for everybody, especially biracial people. You know, growing up, it's really hard because I grew up in a primarily white neighborhood, so, which is fine. And then there are some Black children as well, and you're like, where do I fit in? It's really hard on your identity because you don't feel like you fit in. You don't have anybody to go to. So again, I apologize. I knew this was gonna happen. But I really hope that people understand that it's just like mental illness. Looking at somebody, you can't tell what they are. And if you have a question, just ask. It'd kind of be weird to say like, what's your ethnicity? Like, what are you? But if you're really that curious, I'll speak for myself. I would prefer that you ask me rather than assume that I'm one or the other. And I know that probably that person didn't think about it that way. The photo that I gave for it, I'm pretty, pale in that picture. So maybe they didn't know that I am half Black. People just don't think their comments through sometimes. And it's not with any kind of intention, but it can be received in a negative way. So from that, I would just hope that people would just, take a moment, think about, especially these days, like, it is really upsetting. I mean, at any time and point and any time in my life, it's been upsetting, but just think about what you're truly asking the person. Am I Black enough to represent this panel? Yes, because that's 50% of who I am. So it may not fit for everybody, and I can only speak from my own experience. I'm so glad that we have Divine on here to represent as well. I really appreciate her being here. I appreciate everybody being here, but I guess that's what I hope people get from that question.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I know it's hard, but I think you have a flood of support here in the comments from the people here. You have always been enough. You will always be enough. All of you are enough. And I don't want anyone to ever feel that way. And I think these conversations are important because people may not realize if you're not of a certain ethnic group, or you're biracial, you're multiracial, the judgment doesn't come just from society who's not like you. It can come from within your own community, which is an awful feeling. It's terrible. So that's why these conversations are important, because people may not understand that's a part of it. It's not just this, it can be everyone. It can be everyone. And Sydney, I think you're so amazing, and I was so happy to meet you last year. And we are so lucky to have you, and you are absolutely enough. And we couldn't be prouder to have you on the panel.
Thank you.
Let's go on to another kind of group question. Let's talk about, conversely to Sydney's story, let's have everyone talk about a situation or an event or maybe a person that really made them feel valued and seen and understood. Who are some people, situation, stories that really not renewed your faith, but reminded you there are wonderful, kind, supportive people here? Even if they're not the majority, here, they're the majority. So, Miss Divine Serene, what's a positive experience you can share with us about just representing who you are organically and that being not just validated, but appreciated?
I think a conversation I had before the Pirate Festival here in Maryland, I finally got to meet Caribbean Pearl. I was at a very low point in my mermaid career. I was not doing fire performing that long, and I was just very lost. And I'm trying not to get emotional because Sydney got me emotional, and I'm trying not to get emotional. Honestly, the words that Caribbean Pearl gave me that day, I'm getting emotional, it really touched me because I was very low. I felt like I didn't have a position in the community, and I felt like there was no one like me. And I also felt like I didn't fit because I didn't see, I didn't see enough Black women like me, and I didn't see enough people accepting me. And I got a lot of, I was not authentic. I was not professional, and I was not a mermaid. I was not supposed to be fit into this community at all because I'm pierced and because I'm modified and because I'm tattooed and because of my spiritual beliefs. So by me talking to Sandra, it really helped me, push me. She told me so many things and hidden secrets and so many ways to build me up, to like build the foundation. And I needed that conversation in 2016. I needed to hear from someone who's been in the community for so long and it's been through every walks of life to tell me it was okay, that it's okay to feel this way and it's okay that you're not alone. And I really stand by the point that there is not enough love in this community. There is not enough love. There's a lot of things that's brushed under the rug and people don't see it, and people just kind of just don't want to talk about it, but it's time to talk about it. We really need to talk about what's going on and how certain performers feel, because I have stories for days, stories and feelings and everything and things I've seen, receipts and conversations, and everyone that's here in this panel shouldn't feel that way. We shouldn't feel individualized by our race or what we look like or our hair color or eyes. So I think with Caribbean Pearl kind of setting the standards for me to be a mermaid and be the performer and be the artist that I am, I've been pushing forward to be that young Black woman here in Baltimore to set the standards of this is what you can do. You can do this, and you're not by yourself. And if anyone in the community, I don't talk much, but I'm always open to having conversations and explaining my part of the story, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for that. That touches on so many issues. This isn't just about people of color not feeling represented. This is about, like you said, people who are modified. Tattoos or piercings, I mean, when you're working professionally, clients can have their point of views, but in terms of social and community and giving those people representation, it makes me sick when business owners say you can't have tattoos, you can't have piercings, you can't have braids or dreads. It enrages me because you are not just insulting the person, you could be insulting culture. And that's inexcusable to me. So it's, it's unfortunate that has happened, but I think you being here is such an important, huge step. Because I think your aesthetic is amazing, and I think you're so unique, and we need to see more of everyone in this community. So thank you for sharing that story. Merman Garnet, what are your thoughts on feeling represented and seen by a specific situation or a person?
So, if you guys have been following my story for a long time, you might have known that I was a mermaid with Merman Jax for Shiro's Entertainment. And I remember for the longest time, it was always like, oh, Lisa, you're the diverse one of the team. And all of the hashtags were Asian mermaid, Chinese, like all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't very classy, but, and I never said anything because I was so young and so impressionable. And I was like, whatever, I'm just so happy to be a mermaid. Two things happened for me to like open my eyes more. One was when Jack had left to start his own company. A lot of rumors were flying around, a lot of slander, actually. And the second thing was, I don't know if you guys know her. Her name is Mermaid Kaya. She's a really great friend of mine, and I met her on a trip to Honduras. And she was the one who was like, you shouldn't be accepting how you're treated or how you're spoken to or any of those things. And she really walked me through, because she's a little bit older than me. She'd been in the mermaid community much longer than me. And me being so young in my early 20s, I was like, I shouldn't accept that somebody, you know, profiles me this way, you know, like, because I was the token Asian mermaid, they were like, well, you can wear anything of any Asian culture. And I'm like, no, that's not quite right. They're like, put on a kimono on top of your tail. And I'm like, that's not quite my ethnicity. I'd rather wear turns on, but you know, that's, but like, I never really fought back or said anything to anybody about that. So coming out and having someone like tell me, being like, you don't have to accept that, was so huge for me.
That's wonderful. And I think that's something else people may not be aware of. It's not just about feeling kind of ostracized based on your ethnicity. Sometimes you are hinged into being an exotic, almost fetishized character, you know? Exotic, you know, mermaid Lily and Chinese mermaid Lily. And it always felt off to me. So that is also something that's the opposite side of the spectrum that many people may not realize is a part of, you know, kind of the industry. Even for me, working in the acting world, I either would play, back in the day, a gangster or a sexy club goer. I was nothing but a criminal or a piece of meat. There was nothing between for me for years. And you learn very quickly the way the world views you when you're trying to work commercially. So that's something I think a lot of us struggle with. Mermaid Sydney, how you doing? Let's see. All right. Sorry.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Good.
Sorry for that, everyone.
Nope. Don't apologize. This is what people need to see and hear. These are real stories from real people, and it affects us on levels we probably don't almost ever talk about publicly. So it's hard. So don't apologize for telling your truth and feeling emotional about it. So, yeah, tell us about a good time where you felt validated and seen, and just it doesn't even have to be a huge experience. Just, oh, everyone treated me like I was just everyone else. You know, what are some things like that in your life?
Sure. So if you follow me, you know that the Bahamas trip every year is my most valued thing every year, most valued event. We all get on a boat. It's we sail to a different place. We sail to a different place in the Bahamas, and then it's for photos, it's for swimming. Being a landlocked mermaid, that's really the only time that I have to swim because there's not a whole lot of pools here that allow tails anymore, and so that's my like yearly thing. But on the boat, usually there's different people, sometimes there's the same people, but it's always a sense of empowerment, community. Whoever needs help with something, you're gonna get your help. If you aren't working with a photographer and you want to get your picture taken, any of the girls are like, absolutely, where are we going? Take me there now. So I treasure that. I treasure that every year that we go. Fortunately, we can't go this year. I'm really sad. But it's really nice to look forward to and know, like actually know that that's what's gonna happen every time that I go. So that's where I met Mermaid Rachel, and she's been a big part of that. So I really appreciate all the girls that have been on there and taught me everything I know, helped me, and just made me feel loved. Sometimes on the trip I was having a low day. I've been the only biracial mermaid on that trip every single year. So in group pictures, it's always like, you zero in, I'm the different one, but they don't make me feel that way. And I appreciate that.
That's amazing. I know that both you and Rachel speak so highly about that trip. And she always tells me, you know, when Sydney's there, we can never get out of the water. She's just swimming for hours, and she's like Daryl Hannah and Splash. She just circles the boat. She doesn't even get out of her tail. Like, she says you love that experience. So I'm so glad there is that to look forward to. And hopefully one of these times I can join in on it. And of course, this is one of the years I was considering it, and here we are. So thank you, Mermaid Sydney. Mermaid Andrea, please tell us about a great positive experience that you've had based on, you know, who you are.
Okay, well, one comes to mind right away, and it's actually one of my absolute favorite memories. Well, it's like a series of memories because I built a relationship with an individual that I met at her birthday party. I did a birthday party for her, and it was through Dive Bar. And so Rachel, you know, calls me and she's giving me this spiel, like, let's throw a bunch of her birthday. And come to find out that her and her mom actually went on the website and they saw, you know, because you can see all the mermaids that work for Dive Bar, and she, like, I guess saw my picture and she, like, stopped and was like, that's her, that's the one I want her to come to my party, because she had, you know, the same skin tone, the same hair, same eyes, everything. And so for her, it was almost like, you know, I was part of the family, and I did her birthday party, and from there it really was like I was part of the family. You know, I actually still maintained contact with the mother and her daughter, and they came to the California Mermaid Convention last year, and they found me, and, you know, she did dance with me at the promenade too, and every time I see them, they're just so excited to see me, and you know, the daughter is getting older now, and she's in her teen years or preteens, and for her to just kind of single me out in a way and say, you know, I want you because of, you know, who you are and what you are, and we're the same. For me, that really hit home, and Rachel, like, gave me my details for that. And I remember, you know, stopping to talk to Rachel, and I was like crying because I was like, you know, oh, I didn't get passed over, or, you know, oh, I was her number one pick. And so for me, that was huge, and that was a tipping point for me, because I was kind of like, you know, I am good enough, and I don't need to be paler or, you know, do my hair a certain way, do my makeup a certain way. I can be myself, and I'm gonna be accepted no matter what. And that was like 2 years ago now, and I've seen her, you know, 3 or 4 times after that. So yeah,
That's amazing. If they wanted you for you, and that should just be the way it is, right?
yeah.
So, thank you so much for that story. Merman Garnet, did you have any final thoughts on the topic, or?
All right, so to reiterate your question, you're asking a moment where I felt very welcome and validated in the community, or can you reiterate that, please?
Yeah, just what is an experience, what's a person, what's a situation where you felt seen and valued and you didn't feel different, or you were praised for being unique even?
Well, I can relate this, let's see, probably back to just being a recreational merman, or just before I even became a merman, just looking at the whole mermaid world. I'm sure many of us males and mermen in this group relate to. Many of us growing up with this whole fascination with mermaids, loving Little Mermaid, and of course, being a young gay man, you're often told, like, oh no, that's a girl thing. You shouldn't like this or that or blah, 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 or put down for your interests. So I definitely think something that really made me feel good and validated is especially seeing with how the community has grown, seeing how there are more guys like myself who grew up loving mermaids and Ariel and who enjoy being a merman as well. And even though today, we still need more representation. I mean, you still need more representation, and there are a lot more mermaids in the community than mermen, which is a sad truth. So even though seeing how much the community has grown, it just feels really good and validating to see that there are other males with the same interests in the community as well who enjoy putting on a tail. So it's definitely a lot less ostracizing, even though maybe sometimes when you'll go to like a mermaid meetup or whatever, even if it's small groups, sometimes you'll probably be the only one or two mermen there. But I think one of the benefits with social media, it gives us more communication with more people out there. Like when I decided to create an Instagram account for my Mersona, I got more in touch with more mermen, and I made some pretty good friends, and I felt I was able to make a really good connection, seeing that there are other guys there who enjoy it as well. Even though I do love all my mermaid friends as well, at least for me, I feel especially at home when I have someone more on my level that I could really click with. So, yeah.
And that's amazing. I think the community has started shifting where there are so many more mermen than there ever were, and it's so wonderful to see. And even just in terms of gender in general, it's not an issue in the mermaid community. We have lots of female presenting, male presenting, non-binary. Everyone is welcome. The mermaid is such a symbol of transformation. And even on like a really small note, people may not notice this merman here, let me get closer, this mer person, they have scars from top surgery. This is meant to signify a non-binary or transgender individual, because that is a huge part of the community, and we genuinely want everyone to feel welcome and represented. So I think it's so great that gender and sexuality are not an issue with, I'd say, most of us. And I think that's really beautiful, because I think we're looking at the people and not the body in the community, which is really amazing. So, Miss Divine Serene, you touched on this lightly, and you can go further if you want to, but I know you had to do some soul searching to figure out how you felt about this experience and this panel. And how does that relate to how you felt your company and yourself have been received by the mermaid community?
With me, I used to be called Mermaid Malia in the beginning when I first started. And the soul searching, it took me a while to get to this part and where I'm at now to, I think, represent myself and also represent my company and represent a Black young woman who's different, and to be strong, because that's literally like, I'm like the mom of my experience. That's what Psychedelic Circus is. I think the rough time, are we talking about the situation I was talking with you, Jax, about? I'm guessing I'm going to talk about that. So in 2014, I had a festival. I was running an old company back in the day called Shores to Flames. That was my baby. I laid that to rest recently. That is now gone. I was booked with another company at the time. It was here in Baltimore. It was up in Haverty Grace at Bramblewood. And I noticed a lot that pushed me to a point where I had to take a 2-year break from the community, and also take a 2-year break to kind of get myself together. There was a lot of things, like my group was put on top of the hill, and that group was put at the bottom where all the foot traffic was, because they were the authentic mermaids, I was told. And mind you, mostly my group is mostly Black young women and Black men. I have a mix of all kinds of races. I don't matter who you are, I will accept you as an artist. But as time went on, I realized that things were told, and I was undercut. I was undercut, and things were being really sneaky and very unprofessional from being from another mermaid pod that made me feel like I wasn't worth anything. I wasn't worth being a performer. I wasn't worth being a mermaid artist and everything that I was. So I had to revamp and gain Psychedelic Circus so I could come back bigger and stronger. And the reason I have Psychedelic Circus now is to show that, yes, I love mermaiding. That is my always be my love, and that will always be my baby. But I also want to show other parts of me. Like, I do fire performing, and I'm also an artist, and I run a holistic whole page, and I do all kinds of things. But mermaiding has pushed me to being the young woman that I am, to be the representation that a lot of us don't see. And it's hard. It's very hard to feel like you're not welcome, to feel like you don't matter, and people step and walk all over you. And people tell you you're just making it up in your head, or you're just being stubborn or unapproachable. That's the thing that also bothers me the most, when someone tells me I'm unapproachable because I'm voicing my opinion on how someone made me feel in an event. And when you start to think about it, it's really just because people are uncomfortable to touch about the race subject. You're uncomfortable because I'm a Black young woman running a Black-owned business, and I can also sit next to you, and you don't want to respect me. So it's a lot. I could go on for days, but it was very rough. I took a long time to get, and also to talk to Jax about coming to this panel to speak how I felt, and a lot of things. I've been very uncomfortable to voice my opinion on this community, and I love this community, and I love all the people in this community, and I love all the new faces that we have in this community, and I love all the new mermen and everything. But sometimes you feel like if you keep talking about something that's been bothering you for so long, are we actually going to make the change? Are we going to make the change to actually make the change so we all can get together and we can stop just pointing the blame like, well, they said that and that person said no? We should take full right that you were wrong. You made this person feel this way, and you're supposed to run a professional company. You're not being professional at all if you're doing and making someone feel that you don't even know feel the way they felt. And yeah, that's if anybody else wants to add to that. Sure.
Thank you so much for talking about that. And I think that's part of the issue too, is that sometimes it's very active and clear prejudice. And it's one of those things where if you've ever been judged by the way you look, specifically for ethnicity or orientation, it's not in your head. You know what that feels like. You know what that tone sounds like. You know what that wording feels like. You know when it's prejudicial and it feels awful, and you know it's real. And it's just so unfortunate that behavior like this can come from well-known mermaid organizations. It's deplorable. And I'm so sorry I had to deal with that. And I think it's up to everyone, especially everyone here, because I'm going to guess everyone here wants to learn and wants to become informed and wants to share experiences. So it's up to, at the very least, the group of us here to try to make a better world for everyone. It is so easy to be kind. It's actually so much harder to be cruel. It's so easy to be kind to everyone. So let's all just be nice to each other, Let's try to do that. So thank you, Divine, for sharing that story with us. Mermaid Elisa, you touched on this a little bit already, but I can kind of frame it as, we work and live in the Los Angeles entertainment industry. It's a very competitive industry. There's a lot of specific stuff with casting and types, and they can say, I want the crown this color, I want the hair this color. Clients can be incredibly specific. So as one of the more well-known Asian mermaids in the industry, what has it been like working in Los Angeles?
Everything is about how you look, and something that I have come across a couple of times, and Jack had mentioned it earlier about like being fetishized, or like they have like this image of how I should be based on how I look. Mermaid Andrea, she's already said, like I'm loud, I'm me, I'm a big personality, but like when you think of Asian women in like movies and how they're typically supposed to be. It's like very quiet and docile, and that's not me. So it can be surprising for some people who like, they're like, I want her, when they, you know, they see me on the internet or something like that, and then they actually get me and they're like, I don't know if I really liked that. I heard this after one of the parties that I had done, where I was an assistant to another mermaid, and they told the mermaid that they were like, because we were both mermaids on the website, they were like, well, we didn't want her because she's Asian. And they were like, we can't have the help being the star of the party. It was, when I heard that after the party, I was so mad. I was like, the client's not always right. Client's not always right. And
wasn't my company going.
No, it definitely was not Jack's company. He would never let that happen. Jack has always been so good about asking me if I want to do a job, like making sure that I feel comfortable when I do it, like always making sure that there's somebody there to help me, because like, you know, you're very vulnerable when you're in a tail and might be creepy people hanging about or something like that. So there's always an assistant to make sure that you feel safe, welcome, comfortable, and yeah, everything in LA is about how you look and how you're perceived. And so it's like one of my more defining traits, I would think, would be my hair. It's very long. And like, I think I posted like an April Fool's joke or something like that, where my bangs were growing out and it looked like I had short hair. And so it's like, I just had all of my hair swept back and just my bangs framing my face. So it looked very short. And my previous boss, she was like, what did you do? You can't have your hair like that. You can't be a mermaid like that. So it's just, and she had made previous comments about other people being like, well, they can't have short hair and be a mermaid or something like that. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. Like, you can be anything and be a mermaid. But particularly in LA, people are very picky about how we look. Like even the accessories that we wear, or like they'll go on my Instagram and they'll be like, don't wear that tail, I don't like that one on you. You have to wear this one with this top and this crown. And I'm like, that's really specific. So
it can be very specific. So yeah, so it's something people, once again, may not realize. I mean, to the outside community, obviously to many of us, Mermaid Elisa is gorgeous and she's a fantastic performer, but she still has clients who are like, I don't want an Asian mermaid. 2020, that still is a thing. We don't talk about it, that's still a thing. For each of you, the question is going to be, and I can restate this, what would you like the public to take away from your presentation as a merfolk performer or hobbyist? What's their one takeaway you want to express, or what awareness do you want to bring about the community or you? What is it that you want people to remember from your time on this panel? Miss Divine Serene, why don't you start us off?
I want everyone that's here in this group chat to know that I'm always open. My inbox is always open to talk to every new face that I see on here today that I don't know. One. Also, don't give up on your dreams. Don't. Just keep doing it. I know it could be hard and you might have one job, you have to work 4 jobs, so you have to do all this. Do it. Just continue to work for it, because at the end of an outcome of doing this, I've realized I've worked so hard to get to this point and I'm still getting so much more flourish of love and so much flourish of blessings that it's actually such a wonderful thing, and how many people that I've inspired. And I want everyone to take from this is, from my point of view, that there are people that look like you and you are not alone. There are people that feel down, there are people that feel the same way, and there are people that have the same problems as you, because we are all the same. So for me, I feel like, hi, I'm Divine, and I want you to know that I'm here for you. And I love hearing everyone's story on here, and I love everyone that is here now. And I don't know what else to say. That's from my love. That's from my heart. It's been a wonderful community. It's been a wonderful journey, and I love every single person that's in the comments there, and everyone that's spoke their stories of how they felt and how they've come from the beginning to now. And I feel like we've all progressed, and we all deserve all the divine light that we don't give ourselves enough smiles for. Real.
Thank you. I think that was beautiful. You're not alone. You know, none of you are alone here. You've met us, you've met this group. You're not alone. You know, I feel like there is such a, when you find the right tribe of people, I've never felt like I belonged most places my entire life. Still don't. I feel like I have a place here where I do feel valued and seen. And that's, I can't articulate what that means to me. So that's amazing. So not being alone, yes. As Divine says, you're not alone. So please don't ever think that. Mermaid Elisa, did you want to piggyback on that?
Actually, well, yes, a little bit, and off on a little bit of a tangent is to, like when she said, never let go of your dreams, don't compromise them as well. Like, don't let somebody else or societal pressures tell you how you should look, how you should act, who you should be. Like, if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, that's valid for you to feel that way. You can express it there, you can express it later, but like internalize that, think about it, you know, always think about how this is, you know, this is supposed to make you happy. So let it continue making you happy. Just always be true to yourself. And it's easier said than done, takes a while, but I think that, you know, hearing all of these people and their stories, and even like reading your guys' chats, like you guys are well on the way to already becoming that, especially for the baby mers that I see chatting away.
So is that what your main takeaway is, that don't give up and don't compromise, right?
Yes.
Stay true to yourself.
Stay true to yourself, please.
I think that's so important, and it's a daily choice. You know, things are really hard. Things are much harder for other people than some people, and it's just being aware of everyone's struggle. And, you know, you have to be yourself. You know, my life isn't perfect. It's authentically mine, and I wouldn't change it. You know, it's hard, but I wouldn't change my life for a thing. I like exactly who I am and how I got here. And then I get to do amazing things like this with wonderful people. So thank you, Mermaid Elisa. Merman Garnet, what do you want to communicate to people as Merman Garnet and who you are?
Well, the main number one thing I want to communicate with, especially from the standpoint of a recreational mer who started off as more as an observer of the mermaid world before getting a tail myself, seeing it grow and seeing where it's going now. Yes, there's so much positivity that's emerging so much today. My number one big takeaway I could say is just the main reason you should become a mer or swimming in a tail is for yourself, because it makes you feel good. If it makes you feel good, that's what you should focus on. Yes, it even relates to what I said earlier about, like, for example, being a little boy and grew up loving mermaids and people telling you, oh, that's a girl thing. Just the only thing that should matter to you is if it makes you happy, then that's all that should matter to you. And to relate to that, just doing it for yourself, even if it might be a little selfish, just whatever makes you happy. And I know, especially with the whole rise of social media and the growing mermaid world, it can definitely be so easy to get sucked in saying, wow, this person has so many silicone tails. Wow, this person is so polished. They're posting so many selfies. They have so many followers. They have a fit body. They have long hair. They're so good looking. You should not let that bring you down. You should not let any of that superficial stuff make you want to shape yourself into something you're not. Because that's all just, I don't want to dare I say icing on the cake or whatever, just sparkle or whatever. People put on social media what they want to put, but you are you, your authentic self. If something makes you happy and you know it makes you happy, then that should be your standing ground on why you're doing what you're doing, just for you. Yes, try not to be like anyone else. Try not to be pressured by society to do this or that. Try not to stress about becoming a polished mer. Try not to stress about getting so many followers or so many likes. You should be doing what you're doing because it's what makes you feel good. Because in the end of the day, yes, it's just all your decision. So just do whatever makes you feel good.
Thank you. I think that's a great point. You know, we're all human and we compare ourselves to other people, and social media especially can be so toxic. But in ways like this social experience, we can have important conversations and discussions. And it is hard not to compare yourself to other people, but you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You have to feel good about yourself before you can
Yes, absolutely.
You got to put your mask on first before you help someone else. So it's so important to try to live as authentically as possible and to be good with you. And it's hard. And like I said, it's one of those daily struggle things again, where you have to feel really good about yourself and not get sucked into social media nonsense. You know, if there's, it's a lot, you know, and having lots of followers is oftentimes like being rich Monopoly money. It doesn't mean anything, you know, so be happy.
Yes, likes are just numbers on the screen in the end.
Yeah. And, you know, be proud of your own accomplishments, your own achievements. Those things matter. They do matter. Measure yourself against yourself. Other people, you know, that's their journey. It's not yours. So don't let it derail you. You know?
Right.
Thank you, Garnet. So what would you like people to remember about Mermaid Sydney, or about Mermaid Sydney's view on life?
Probably not the crying, for starters. I just really hope anybody who wants to do this just does it. It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're fat, if you're skinny, if you're introverted, if you're not, if you can swim, if you can't swim. I mean, it helps for sure. Please don't get into it if you can't swim. But if I, as a biracial person living in Colorado, very introverted, can do it, anybody can do it. This is not an exclusive club. It's not who's better than who has better stuff than who. It's about you being happy and achieving your dreams of whatever they are. You just have to do it. And just don't worry about the people who don't like it, because all the people in this room right now will love you for who you are. So.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And, you know, Miss Mermaid Sydney, I will remember you crying, because vulnerability is beautiful and it's important. And we live in such a guarded society where we're scared to have important conversations and to feel a certain way about things. And I think that's wonderful. You did that, and we were, you know, lucky enough to see it. These are real people. You're all real people with hearts and minds and souls. And especially on social media, people forget that we are living creatures, and people say horrible, mean things. And there's a person behind that screen. So once again, being kind is so easy, and you have to do what's right for you. People may not understand it, but I don't know if at the end of the day you'll forgive yourself if you don't live authentically. You know? So thank you, Mermaid Sydney. That's an amazing sentiment. Mermaid Andrea, how are you going to fix the deficit? Go. No. What is your outgoing message for everyone here?
So I have actually been thinking about this since I was asked to be on this panel, because one, when I was asked by Rachel, I was completely shocked about a representation panel, me being on a representation panel, because I didn't think that I was necessarily, I don't want to say good enough, but I wasn't sure if I had what it took, I guess. And after some thinking and, you know, talking to Rachel, I realized, yeah, this is where I should be and this is where I want to be. And I guess my takeaway message would be, you know, everybody has a voice, and it really needs to be about how you use your voice. And more than that, you know, and we're at a very interesting time in history. So you need to understand when your voice should be used and how it should be used. If you want to support movements and you want to go ahead and you want to be an ally, awesome, that's beautiful. You know, we all should be supportive of our different communities, but understand where your place is. You need to know if you shouting and being an ally, are you so loud that you're blocking out somebody who really should be represented more, a person of color or a biracial person? You know, and that's really more for like allies who are maybe Caucasian, white. You know, just don't let your desire to be on the good team or you know, your excitement, I should say, overshadow somebody who really needs to be in the spotlight. And that's what I've really learned, and that's the reason why I wanted to do this panel, was because I know that we all have a voice and we all have a story to tell, and I really want everyone to be able to tell their story, and I want to be here supporting everybody's story. But I think we also need to look inside ourselves, especially in this community, especially with what I've seen. You need to, you know, promote the people who need it for any various issue. You know, it doesn't have to pertain to one thing in particular, but if you want to be an ally and you want to be supportive and you want to support people like me and people like Sydney who kind of don't fit anywhere because we fit in between, but we fit in two different places, or people like Divine, support us in a way that you are raising up our voices rather than drowning out our voices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's so important that everyone can say is it's vital for people not to just hear, but listen.
Yes.
Even the most well-intentioned people, sometimes they're more mad about something for me, and it's like, oh, you're not listening or hearing then, because you're making this about you. And I think everyone who cares is trying to find their way, and people make mistakes, and that's okay. Let's not cancel people who do make mistakes and genuinely want to learn, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm just saying, you know, and I've had people come to me and ask me, you know, how can I be better? How can I, you know, show my support? And that, yes, we want that. We want that from everybody. I'm a very big advocate. I talk about a lot of Native American issues that I have been struggling with my whole life, and people have been really good at representing that, and people have been not so good because, you know, they kind of take it and run with it, and it's like, wait, you know, this is kind of my thing that I wanted, you know, to be from me, and somebody kind of takes it out of your hands. So I'm not saying, like, I'm not blaming anybody for doing anything wrong. Oh my gosh, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, help us by learning. Always be learning, you know, help us by understanding your place and our place and everybody's place in this, because at the end of the day, you know, we only need to raise each other up when we need the support, and we don't need to drown out the voices of those who need to be heard the most for what, you know, any issue, any subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an important part, that, you know, some people do want to listen and learn, and those are the people you can make a change with. You know,
Yes.
those people you have those important conversations with. I think so many of us are open to being reached out to and conversations. Conversely, respect the person if they're talked out. If their bandwidth's out and they're like, I don't want to discuss anymore, or just not right now, feel free to reach out to learn, but it is no one else's job to educate you. If they're open to it, wonderful, but you don't force conversations, because then you're making it about you. But reach out and learn and listen, because that's how we make a change with people who do care, and everyone here who wants to, you know, learn and listen. So thank you very much for that, Mermaid Andrea. Miss Mermaid Rachel, I'm sure we got tons of questions that we want to touch on from all these wonderful attendees, and I see so many things in the chat, so thank you for keeping track of that for us. are there some great questions you want our panelists to chat about?
We do. So first of all, thank you. For the second year in a row, this panel has been, I think, life-changing for me and for many of the people on here who are listening to your stories. So thank you so much. So in relation to, and if you folks have questions, please do drop them in the chat right now. In relation to your experiences working in LA, folks want to know if that is a universal experience, hiring mermaids or being hired, if people are that judgmental, or if that is something that is very particular to working in Los Angeles.
Miss Miranda Lisa, do you want to start us off, or do you want me to start us off?
I can only speak to the few jobs that I've done outside of LA, and for the most part, everyone that I've been hired for outside of LA has been very kind to me, but obviously because I am based in LA, I don't travel a whole lot. So it has really just been my experience with how people are so judgmental here.
Los Angeles. Yeah, and I think the thing too that people don't understand is the industry. I mean, it's quiet now. It makes a million projects, TV shows, movies, web series. There's so much content that casting calls can be abrupt and brief, and they may not even have a necessarily prejudicial stance, but they can come off really abrasive. And that is just part of the industry. And we do work in a world where people are so specific, where the party's pink, I want the mermaid in a pink tail and a pink top, and Mermaid Elisa knows this. Themes are very important, or if it's a specific brand, our colors are blue and gold, we need blue and gold. Sometimes it is just about the product or the environment, but I think in general, the Los Angeles industry still has some catching up to do. There is a lot more representation now, and it's still, it's getting better. It's not perfect. Will it ever be? I don't know. It's one of those things where I see people complaining, oh, does there have to be a gay person on every single TV show? And it's such a weird thing to say, where it's like, if there are more than 10 people, then yes, one of them would possibly be gay. Like, could you imagine someone saying, God, there's so many straight people on the show? And it's just, that's not something people say. They will absolutely say, why are there so many gay people on the show? And that's programmed. You know, you're not born feeling that way. That's systematic. That's a part we all have to unpack and deal with. But LA is very, very specific about things, and I find it's either they love the diversity, Dark Tide's known for its diversity in age and race, sexuality, and that's become the pinnacle of who we are, or it's still, we want, you know, a fair-haired, pale girl with, you know, a 16-inch waist and, you know, double D bust, and it's like, okay. So it really is that gambit of in between, where I think you find the right companies, the right people, you put out the right energy, you can often find the best people to work with. But LA's rough. LA is rough. You have to have thick skin to work here. It's not for everyone, but it's a way that I feel like I can help represent people who even slightly feel like me, to say, I can do it, I've done it, you can do it too. It's hard, but it is possible. So.
This is a great question, I think, and one I'm very interested to hear all of your thoughts on. As a mermaid business owner, someone who runs a company, if you're looking to have a more diverse team, what is the best way to approach that without straying into tokenism or performative allyship? And what is the best way to support those performers when they're working on your team?
That's a great question. Divine Serene, do you want to have some insight on this? Please.
I was definitely going to answer that one. For me, when this was before I started running my own company, I think it's more, you do feel very much not okay with walking up and seeing a full I know my cat Pumpkin felt like she wanted to come in here and she wanted to say something too. Sweetie has to say this too. You feel by yourself when you walk up and you see a mermaid company, because I've always wanted to be a part of certain companies before I started my own, and when I was just an individual partnership. So in the beginning, I just think I look for energy. Energy is a very much how much dedication, how much interest, and see how the individual is when they're into the community itself. Like, do they already know about the community? Do they know about the tail makers? Do they know about Fin Fun? Do they know about what they need to do when it comes into swimming? After that, it's like I want to see their background history, and then I kind of like I mommy it kind of in a sense. I'm kind of like the big sister or the whatever right now, just to see where they are before I put them in a situation that they can't handle, and I kind of like baby guppy it in a sense, because I have, for example, I have a creative collective here. It's called City Beach Baltimore, and I have a mermaid that's a baby guppy, and she kind of follows me when I'm doing my like events. She sits next to me and sees what I do and how I do it, and then I see how she works. I leave her alone for a little bit. I come back and I kind of make her feel comfortable. I ask her questions. What's she feeling right now? How does she feel about the event in general? Is she feeling anxious? Does she need a 15-minute interval? It's kind of like building a relationship with a person to make sure like you're not making them so overwhelmed that they don't want to do it anymore, and you just kill the dream of them being a mermaid for them. So that's just my experience with training other individual Black women and also Black men and mermen, and just in general, that's my example. That's what I got from. That's where I'm at right now. And I'm still training a lot of other people and still getting a lot of questions on how do they feel, on where are you going to feel down the line? Is this going to be part-time? Is this going to be all the time? Or is this just going to be a hobby just in there? So
thank you. That was a lot of good points. I think what we can do as a community is try to encourage and to inspire more mermaids of color, more LGBT community to feel welcome and accepting and ready to fill those slots. I know some companies are so open and so excited to work with diverse people, and there's just no one in their area. And it's hard because those performers have to stand up, and it's hard. They have to come into a place where they feel welcome and accepted and valued. But we have to encourage these people to come out and to talk to companies and to be willing to train, and just once and give them a platform to actually be represented. Not just talk about diversity, but actually give these people tangible opportunities and real ways to gain experience. And it's hard in a commercial world where industries are going to have their preferences, are going to have types, and that's unfortunate. You can still create a safe, welcoming place for performers. And you may end up realizing that, 19 out of 20 jobs that come my company's way, I can't book. They want a mermaid. But I know that in my niche community, I do very, very well where I get requests just for me. I never thought that would be a thing, ever, and I'm so grateful. So it's one of those things to remember too, that you may not be everyone's cup of tea, but you may be someone's shot of whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Someone's gonna love who you are specifically, and they're gonna ask for you. Because I do think authenticity and energy goes such a long way, because we all can see very synthetic groups, very posed, very performative, very, oh, I care now. And it's just, I think it's so easy to see who's genuine and who wants you there, because those type of people have always been welcoming people that are different. When Dive Bar opened, and I don't know what it was, 2012, maybe Rachel can tell me, she made sure, 2011, the first merman they had was a Black merman. That wasn't performative, that's just who Rachel is. Like, this whole experience, because people and allies care and have always been that way. I didn't know I gave Caribbean Pearl her first gig on the West Coast. I just thought she's amazing. I wasn't like, oh, I need to have a person that ticks off these boxes. She was an amazing performer. I think it's so about seeing the performer and just not the visual. I think that's so, so important. And it's just these conversations I'm hoping will inspire a bunch more MERS to reach out and talk to people who want to learn, because it's such a collaborative effort. It's not on one person to make this place diverse. It's on the minorities, it's on the allies, it's on all of us to work together to create a better world where people feel seen. So Thank you, Divine, for that. Oh, I think you're still muted. There we go.
Well, I definitely think in this day and age, it's definitely an exciting opportunity just to not only diversify the whole mermaid image and pop culture's stereotypical notion of mermaids. It's really a great way, yes, just to try something different and just really show that mer people can really be this and that. And just there's more, so much more to the mermaid than just, you know, skinny, light skin or whatever. It's, yeah, so I definitely am pretty excited to see how they'll do it. And I definitely think the actress they chose, she definitely is very gorgeous. She has a beautiful voice. She definitely can really play the role. I definitely think so. So yes, beyond words, I'm definitely looking very forward to it and just showing, and my hope is at least with it showing the pop culture world that there's more to the mermaid image. I definitely hope it really opens everyone to really looking more into the whole archetype of the mermaid, even from a more cultural and historical standpoint. Even I hope that really inspires some people to research things like Mami Wata or other cultures that have very similar mermaid mythology, but through a very different scope. So I definitely think there's a lot of exciting opportunities with casting Holly as Ariel, and I'm definitely for it as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Garnet. I think we may have lost Elisa, so we'll keep an eye out for her. Mermaid Sydney, what do you think about the new live-action Little Mermaid?
I'm super excited. I think growing up, of course, I watched Little Mermaid literally every single day. I had every single VHS that there was, could name all the characters, loved it. So I am all about it. I think young girls today will be so excited, you know, having not grown up with Ariel, but now they get to grow up with a different Ariel. It will just be, if I had that when I was younger, like, I think it would have been a lot easier to follow my dream as a mermaid. Like, you see it, you know it can be done. And growing up without that, you're just like, no, I don't know. I never thought of myself as an Ariel. I was like, I'll never pass as an Ariel. I have to be my own character. I'll never be Ariel. But it was great to see way back when they had Gabriella, the deaf one, the deaf mermaid, who was a mermaid of color. And I just thought that was so cool when I was younger. So I am really excited to see what they come up with. I'm excited to see the effects and how they portray the story. I think it will be a really good way, a really good segue for other princesses to maybe be redone and more, not relevant, but more up to date, I guess, if that makes sense.
Wonderful, thank you. Mermaid Andrea, what are your thoughts on the new Little Mermaid?
I am so excited. So when I remember when the news first broke about this, and it was like a firestorm. I think my view was kind of like, you know, like, well, it's about time, you know, like, let's get some different people in here and some diversity. And I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with or has seen the show Hamilton, but when Hamilton first came out, that was huge because, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda and his whole cast were, I don't even know if they have like a straight 100% Caucasian white person in their cast. Everyone is diverse. It's all different, but they're telling a story that we all quote unquote know because we're taught it in school, and it's just like, you know, it's a different retelling of it, but it's from a different perspective. So I'm hoping that this movie will bring in, you know, a different perspective, and it will encourage people, I'll say that in a nice way, encourage people to open up their ideas of, you know, what the norm is, because I think for so long the norm is only pleasing one specific type of person, and we live in a melting pot, and it's just unrealistic to expect the norm to stay the same. You know, we got to get some change, and we got to get some new things. And yes, it's a story that's been told before. I saw somebody comment that they want to see some new stories, but like, you know, you build the wall with the bricks you have. So these are the bricks that we're starting with, and this is how we're starting it. And 20 years from now, I can't wait to see, you know, what we're going to be, and the type of communities and representation we're going to have. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm excited.
That's wonderful.
Hi, Pumpkin.
Thank you so much for that. And I'll say a couple of quick things. It's just, this movie is so controversial to certain people, and just a few small facts. First of all, Broadway and theater versions of The Little Mermaid have always been mixed. The sisters, Triton, they've always been mixed. So I don't want to say get over it, but get over it. It's always been mixed. Second of all, some people are like, oh, she doesn't look like her. Chloe looks like Ariel. She has these big eyes, this little button nose. She looks like Ariel to me. And then some people under thinly veiled racism talk about she should be a redhead. Guess what, everyone? Redheads are genetically possible in every race or type of person. She can still be a redhead. You may be concerned about another aspect of her. And finally, it's just so funny, the Disney version is kind of far removed from the original Hans Christian Andersen version, because if you want to scream up and down that Ariel's Danish, well, the water she's in looked very tropical, and she's hanging out with a Jamaican crab, and even the castle is Italian and Mediterranean in style. She's not Danish, to break the news to people. And also, these are mermaids. They don't have to follow human nationalities or races or whatever. We don't know what mermaids look like. I mean, maybe some of us do, but they can be whatever. So I think it's gonna be amazing, and just, I was so excited for not just Black performers to have more opportunities, but for little Black girls to see someone that looks like them. You know, I don't wanna go on a tangent. It breaks my heart when I get calls from clients and they can't find a Black mermaid for their little daughter, or they can't find party supplies with Black mermaids. And that's such an awful and validating feeling for people. And this is such a huge, huge step. And you can have lots of problems with Disney, but I think this is an amazing, amazing step forward, and I'm very, very excited for it. So Rachel, take it away before I start crying.
I'm taking it away. I don't know where I'm taking it to.
Oh, Sydney has a raised hand.
Oh, yes.
I did want to mention, and maybe it will come up in a question or something, that I've been doing a lot of research for bras and bodysuits and that sort of thing. I have a list of companies that do offer different shades. And so if you're a creator or just somebody that wants to create their own, I will be listing that information on my profile, and you can go and see if that's something that interests you. Because it took me over a year to make the bodysuit, or not, I didn't make it, find the materials in the right color to get it custom made so that I could have something in my shade. So I know that's a really hard thing in the community as well. So if you want that information, I have it available. Please reach out. I'd be happy to share it with you. And let's take it away, Rachel. Sorry about that.
That's an amazing point, because I think lots of immersive color, finding something that's nude is not nude on most of us. Like, even tail makers, it's just about experience. Some of them make blended waists, and I was like, oh, I got a big white stripe on my waist because it's not my nude. Or trying to find undergarments or mesh, or it's like, oh, this isn't my skin tone. Oh, it's the only one the company makes. That's something we struggle with all the time. Nude does not fit any of us. So resources like that are so amazing. So thank you, Mermaid Sydney. And I think Merman Garnet has his hand up.
Well, I can definitely attest to that. As an artist and creator myself who just started making mermaid tops, it's a struggle to find something that will match everyone's exact skin tones. Even with the power mesh I use in my armband, sometimes I find, oh, this is too light on my skin tone, this is too dark, or blah, 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 blah. So it's a constant struggle. Yeah.
That's a thing. So resources like that are invaluable. Thank you, Sydney. Mermaid Andrea.
Because I'm just reading some comments right here, and I am super excited to see more companies releasing different skin tones for, just clothing in general. And one of the big ones that was kind of brought up recently in media was ballerina point shoes, which is another huge community that needs a lot of work. So we're not going to get into that. We don't have another 6 hours, but and people are commenting, just dye it, which is a great alternative. Yes, but that shouldn't be, we shouldn't have to do the extra work because the color of our skin, like it doesn't serve us in any way to have to put in more work when, a mer who has everything the same but maybe a different skin tone can just go to the store and buy it right off the rack, boom, ready to go. That's not how it should be. Like, yes, dyeing is great. You can make so many different things if you change the color, but we should have the same availability and the same, types of things just for everybody, like make all the skin colors. Why did we only need to have black, dark brown, and ivory? Like, so I just wanted to comment on that, it needs to be more, commercial with a lot of companies. And I think a lot of companies are picking up on that and they're offering more. The huge one recently, I'm in the medical field for my day job. And so one that we talked about was the brand Band-Aids has always been the same skin color for so long. And I saw a guy posted a picture on Instagram, and he was black and his Band-Aid actually matched his skin tone. So it's like for him and he was 46 years old. So that for me is people need to get on board and need to realize that, yes, people are saying, we support you and we see you, but it's like, if you're not making products for us, you're not making things that make us inclusive, at that point you're only talking and you're only trying to make yourself look better, essentially. Like, put your money where your mouth is, make things for everybody, be inclusive. So yeah, there we go, I'm done.
Well, no, it's a great point. And I think something also that Garnet was adding was that dyeing certain fabrics doesn't work well with water. Some things aren't water fast, and it's like, so not only do we have to, hand make and hand dye our things like colonial people, it may not even work in the water. And it's just, it's 2020. And I think people realize that companies who are offering more diverse colors and nudes and makeup shades, they're doing incredibly well because so many of us don't have very many resources like that. So it's incredibly commercial, and companies are catching up, and it's nice. There's more availability than there ever has been, but it's still not everywhere.
Yeah.
People can't always
ways to go.
Yeah. Like Hannah, for the Virginia Mermaid, talked about this. She went into a drugstore and had to run and grab some makeup, and she found her shade, and she said it occurred to her that tons of people would not have been able to find their shades because there was 10 of them there. And she's like, it's been so easy for me, it never occurred to me that some people can't find makeup that fits their skin tone. And that's just their life, and it's so different. So, yeah. Thank you for that, Mermaid Andrea. Where are we at, Mermaid Rachel?
So we've got about 4 minutes left, and we have a bunch of really, really good questions too. I think maybe Merman Jax, you and I can brainstorm how to answer some of these for folks, because I think they should be.
Okay.
I think the last question I'd like to ask the panel about is if any of you are aware of non-binary costuming for mermaids, if you know of any makers who supply that.
Does anyone want to jump in on someone they know that creates more? I mean, I can even say what I appreciate about even Garnet's Grotto's products is that as mermen, we're going to have a hard time finding male presenting items because everything is made for mermaids and everything can be sparkly or glittered or feminine shells, and it's hard sometimes to find stuff that's just for us. It's really, really hard. And I think Garnet Grotto creates so many things that I don't even like the term unisex because it still describes as sex, but that can be for everyone. All genders can have different colors and sizes, and it's like, oh, that's nice. I don't have to make a super female oriented object work on me. It's nice to have those options. So Garnet, why don't you talk about that?
Oh yes, especially for me as an artist and maker, I'm definitely very happy to make products for anyone. Whoever comes to me for a set of armbands, or if they want to come to me for a top, I'm happy to accommodate, and I'm very glad to see that 80% or almost all the people who have bought something from me have been very happy with my products. And so I'm just very glad I could bring that to the table in the mermaid community, just helping diversify things more, just giving something that's accessible to everyone and looks great on them. So
Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. And it looks like there's some good info in the chat as well. People talking about binders or more covered up options. And it's just, I think it's also about challenging artists. Not challenging, but like, hey, I need something that works for me that you may not make. Do you think you could make something like this? I think it's good to have those conversations. Some artists, it may not even cross their minds. But I think there are so many wonderful artists out there on Etsy and just everywhere who would love custom orders and a specific unique situation that they could tackle creatively. So I'd say definitely let's have more conversations with the artists to talk about, hey, I need products that work for me like this. I think it's a good start, and there already are companies who are starting to offer more gender neutral items. And I know it's a problem for people who don't necessarily want a male or female presenting look. They want to feel like them. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think we can all work on changing that and having that dialogue more. Mermaid Rachel, what else do we have?
Mermaid Elisa is raising her hand, and then I think it'll be time to wrap up.
Oh, I can't even see her. Go ahead, Mermaid Elisa. She is.
Sorry, my internet cut out for like 30 seconds, and I was like, ugh. But I want to toss in Mermaid and Mom into that pot, because Rachel does pretty much all custom work, and it's not, it's to your specifications. And I mean, of course, whenever I bring something to her, I'm like, do whatever you want, but this is the theme I want it in and the size. And she usually just like takes in it and runs with it. So I would definitely run to her if you want something. I know that Merman Icarus also has a lot of items that could be used for any sex, like his wings. That wing set I feel like would be so cool on everybody. And he came out with something that like it comes down the spine. I don't even know what to call it, like a harness. I don't know, but lots of good stuff there too. That's it.
Icarus is wonderful, and Valier Cove makes lots of great, kind of neutral accessories. And of course, yeah, I can't not talk about Mermaid and Mom. She makes the most beautiful, sparkly, glittery, feminine things. And when I was like, hey, I need something for me, it was no issue. I had black spiked shells and green pearls and I had all these beautiful things. And it was just, oh, sometimes you just have to ask people, can you do this? And I got amazing stuff. I don't even like crowns. I hate crowns for me. I think they're pretentious on me. She's made me 2 or 3 crowns I've loved because she customized it to who I was and what I wanted, my aesthetic. And it's just, when you find an artisan that treats you with respect and hears you out, support them. So.
Thank you for that. I did see one thing in the chat that I want to address, but I can't remember because I'm flustered because you were nice to me. Someone wants to explain the bubble ball. So quick little plug for the bubble ball. It is tonight. Essentially, the bubble ball is an online ball. Dress up, wear your best mermaid stuff. There's sing-alongs. We're going to have a little dance party. If you buy a ticket to the bubble ball, you're automatically entered into our raffles. And all of our raffles have prizes from our vendors. So as you can imagine, the prizes are really good. We're also having some live performances. Actually, Mermaid Elisa is doing a live performance. Mermaid Janessa, who I think is tuned into this, is also doing live performance. So it's really fun. It's going to be really silly, really interactive, and if you want to join, tickets are on the website. So that is the brief Bubble Ball info. I want to say again, thank you so much. Merman Jax really has championed this panel from the very beginning and made sure that there is this safe and open place to have these important discussions, for everyone to have their voice heard. So thank you so much. And it really means a lot, all of you panelists, for sharing this. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think we all have to thank the convention in general for being such a safe, amazing space for us all to exist in. You know, from Mermaid Mom and other co-founder Pixie Tribe, they've created this true culture of understanding and acceptance. And I know they've always made me feel so seen and so valued and so respected that you cannot help but want that for everyone. And I think that's really what sets our con apart. I mean, we had this representation panel last year. The room was completely full. People were standing, and people for months messaged us. People came to us crying, saying they felt so connected, and they were so happy to hear this. And that's the culture of our event. It's not just the amazing founders and the staff creating opportunities, it's the attendees caring. Because I've definitely seen events where people didn't care. The staff, the attendees didn't show up, it wasn't important to them, and that is just not the heart and soul of this con, and that's why I'm so proud to be part of it. So thank you to California MerCon for creating a genuinely diverse and welcoming community.
Thank you guys again. We're gonna sign off, and hope to see you at the Bubble Ball, and we do have some events tomorrow too, including our cleanup in the morning, which is very important. So check it all out on the website, guys. Thank you, Jax. Thank you, panelists.
Check out Medusa, Rena, and Reina's things too. So, yes. Thank you, everyone. I love you all. Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.